All right, studies. I'm gonna pull. So I read a cool study on digital devices and when they're used to calm down children, meaning you're busy or whatever, and your kid's acting up,
interesting.
and you're like, here's an iPad, here's the TV.
Okay, so what were they looking for? What was the hypothesis?
Well, I don't know about the hypothesis, but I'll tell you what they found. So this came out of the University of Michigan.
Okay.
So summary, frequent use of devices like smartphones and tablets to calm upset children ages 3 to 5 was associated with increased emotional dysregulation in kids.
Wow.
So now what they said
share that with me, would you? Share it in our thread.
So they said the reason why this happens is that it prevents the child, especially during these critical ages, 3 to 5, it prevents them from learning how to regulate their own emotions. So they do it through distraction, and they end up not learning the skill of calming themselves.
Right.
So then when they're in school or whatever, when they don't get the tablet or phone,
intrinsically
they don't have the skill.
Yeah.
So then they can't. They have dysregulation, and those are critical times when they're when at that age.
What was the how it says frequent use? What is that considered? Once a day, 5 times a day, once a week. What would the study use?
You know what? Let me see.
Because that would make a difference, right? If you're constantly, every time the kid cries, you use that, multiple times a day to do that versus the person who maybe once in a blue moon does.
It only says as a regular go-to soothing strategy.
Regular. So I would assume, probably daily then.
I would assume it's regularly, in other words, like on a mostly daily.
It's funny you bring this up. Last night we had, Katrina and I was so happy and proud of my wife for bringing this up because this is like a big deal for me. You know how I'm always talking about, manufacturing adversity for my son and that I'm so concerned that he's being raised in a different type of environment than I was. And I know how important it is to be challenged somewhat growing up. Right. He's an only child with her and I. He's the baby of the family. Everybody showers him with gifts. And she said something to me on the way back from Gilroy Gardens last night. And she's like, I really, I want us to practice telling Max no for the sake of no, because, he's an only child. So he gets a lot of yes from us already. And then he gets spoiled from all of his aunts and uncles. So he's constantly being told that. And she's like, I was thinking about the other day. She's like, I can't even remember the last time that he asked for something or wanted to do something and the answer was no. And I'm like, I'm so glad you're talking about this now because I just foresee what a problem this is going to be if we don't practice that. If we don't practice and it doesn't have to be like a big deal that, if we were driving home and we were listening to Christmas music and he wanted to listen to his stuff and Katrina's like, no. And she's like, is that something normally that we would just do?
Yeah.
We transitioned to listening to some of his stuff just because he asked and we're cute. Yeah. But it's like, we don't ever say no. And so saying no for the sake of no, because it's important that he learns that and then learns to cope with it.
That's it. He has to learn how to deal with the fact that
and then afterwards he was a little fussy about it. It's like, no, just don't play into it. Don't make a big deal about it. It's no, mommy and daddy are listening to this right now. And
so what's cool about this article is they actually give you alternatives. And Jessica's really good at this. She says, because we have a 2-year-old, when he's kind of throwing a fit or whatever, it's because he can't regulate his own emotions yet. He's only 2. And if you punish him for not being able to regulate his emotions, all he learns is shame. Mommy and daddy don't like the fact that I can't control this thing. So you're trying to logic them. It doesn't work. What you need to do is you got to kind of be there with them. And there's a few things that you can do. And they actually talked about this in the article, which is amazing. Number 1 is a sensory technique. So these are things that help them alleviate the physical sensations that they're overwhelmed with. And some of them include swinging, hugging, pressure, jumping on a trampoline, listening to music, looking at something sparkly, just helping them learn how to because they have this physical feeling and they just don't know how to deal with it yet. The other one is to name the emotion and what to do with it. So I can see now, I can tell that you're really upset and it's really tough for you. So help them name kind of what's going on. Offer replacement behaviors. Jessica's really good at this. So if he's playing with he has cars that he plays with and sometimes he'll throw them. and we don't want him to throw them because he could hit his infant sister with them. So instead of being like, don't throw cars, we'll be like, hey, throw this instead. And we'll give him like fluffy socks or something like that. So you're giving him a replacement behavior.
Yeah.
So rather than saying, don't do this instead.
You know, it's so hard giving advice around kids. You know, I try and catch myself sometimes because I recognize that I have an amazing kid who is really easy. And so I never want to make someone feel like, oh, if you just do this, it'll happen. And so I'm always very careful
Oh, yeah.
about like
Yeah, no, I feel you.
giving like advice with like their kid and stuff like that. The one thing that I can say that I think is like, and it's just like a general rule that I feel makes such a difference is just learning not to react. I think that, and that's the biggest difference that I can
Just
see
staying calm.
in myself.
Totally.
If I was 25 versus
So
being
much
40,
more effective, right?
right? Just the simple fact of he can be mad, he can act out, and I don't change.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is the thing that I think
They
is
can be emotional, but you got to kind of be able to let them be emotional.
That's right.
And not bring your emotions in.
exactly. I feel like there's all kinds of different cool tactics and strategies to handle it or do this instead. But the most important thing I think that anybody could take away and consistent with all kids is just that you as the adult have to stay consistent and calm.
Which, by the way, can be very
It's very
hard.
challenging.
It's very. That's
Especially
why.
you got a lot of
To me,
kids.
that's
The
why
work-
it's
the work to put
that's
in,
why it's
though.
the number
Yeah.
one focus. It's like that in itself is a task because you have stress. You and your partner get into it sometimes. There's a lot of variables that will make this exponentially more difficult.
Yeah.
And so if you can just nail that one thing down, that when your kid is acting out or acting crazy
Well,
or
this is too, where your partner is like, you got to be able to lean on them sometimes because it is hard, and you're like, and they catch it when you are getting emotional and reaction, and then I'll do this for Courtney, and she'll sometimes do this for me.
Let me take over.
Yeah, just let me take over. Like, I got this, and then they'll, oh, thank you, because like I was getting too riled up, like into the fact that they're getting emotional about it. It was affecting me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like half of that is like they're trying to figure out how to calm themselves. That's all part of this developmental process. Like you got to let them experience and figure that out. Without like imposing this rigidity around that, and like you can only do it this way.
Yeah.
But like like for me, it's I can't get emotionally involved. I have to like be very consistent and like here's. You can process this however you need to, but like you're gonna have to figure out how to do this because you can't react like this every time something doesn't go your way. You just can't do that.
Yeah, and your kid will remember, rather than remembering what you're trying to teach them, they're going to remember dad was yelling.
Yeah, how you acted.
That's
You know,
it.
that's the big-
100%.